Thanks, Jared. So as Jared mentioned, my name is Patrick Beal. I'm a senior at Ohio State, and I'm also the co-founder of LEAP, the College Carpooling Network. So I'd like you guys to take a second to think about a time where you really wanted to get involved in something, but maybe you just didn't know how to go about getting involved. The perfect example that comes to my mind is the first time we all go to the gym. We want to be fit and we want to be healthy, but maybe we're a little nervous. Maybe we don't know how to get into the gym. So we reach out, or we look online to read articles, and we go on YouTube to watch videos, and maybe we even reach out to friends who have experience in the gym. But no matter what we do, we end up taking baby steps to get ourselves to the gym. So I'm here with you guys tonight to talk about some of the baby steps that my team and I have taken in order to get into a space that we originally were not familiar with. And that space is the innovative mobility movement we're seeing here in Columbus, around our country, and really around the world. So our story begins 2 years ago during our sophomore year. I received an email from one of my professors, and he sent a flyer from General Motors. And GM was having an innovation challenge on campus. And they challenged students to form teams and come up with ideas to implement existing technology into their current manufacturing facilities to make the facilities better. So I thought this was pretty cool, and I got a group of guys together, and we started brainstorming what GM might be looking for out of this competition. And we thought GM is going to be looking for a green, a sustainable, and environmentally friendly solution. So we started thinking of ideas, and we ended up coming up across an idea and presenting that GM should implement piezoelectric material in their manufacturing facilities to harvest all the wasted energy in their plants. So for those of you guys who don't know what piezoelectric material is, it's kind of like a magic material. It's pretty smart. When you compress it, it generates a voltage, and that voltage generates electricity. The electricity can be used on spot or stored for later use. Over in Europe right now, in high traffic areas, they have these piezoelectric tiles. When you walk across the floor, the piezoelectric tiles compress a little bit, generates electricity, and it's used to power the lights overhead. So we thought this would be pretty cool for GM plants. So we pitched the idea on campus at Ohio State, and they really liked it. They ended up sending us to the headquarters in Detroit to compete in the final round of the competition against 5 other schools. So we went up to Detroit, and the day before the final competition, we met with one of the leaders of GM's mobility department, and he gave us a little case study. He started off by saying you have 2 transportation companies, Company A and Company B. Company A has a net worth of $10.8 billion. They own just under 500,000 vehicles, and they have about 169,000 Facebook likes. Company B, on the other hand, has a net worth of about $41.2 billion. They own 0 vehicles, and yet they have 834,000 Facebook likes. What is Company A and what is Company B? Now, you have an idea?
Is it Lyft and Uber?
Close. So Company A was the leading car rental company at the time, Hertz. Company B was Uber. So with this in mind, he asked the question, what is the future of transportation? And he gave us 2 hours to get together and kind of come up with some ideas. And so we got together, and our co-founder, Brian, sitting right up here in front, he came up with this great idea. And he said the future of transportation was a subscription-based autonomous vehicle service where you can basically enter your schedule on your phone, and a self-driving car will come and pick you up whenever you want it. And you pay just like you pay on Netflix for a flat fee per month. So we pitched this idea in this case study, and then they told us they'll tell us the winners of the case study tomorrow during the final competition. We went back to our hotel room and started practicing for the next day's pitch. So the next day we got up and we pitched in the final competition, and GM's leaders really liked our piezoelectric idea. And they ended up awarding us the entire competition. They selected us as the winners of not only the innovation challenge, but also the case study. So as you can imagine, the 3.5-hour trip back to Columbus, we were pumped. We were excited. But in the back of our mind, we started thinking, what really is the future of transportation? So over summer, we went our different ways, and we did different internships. But we came back in fall, and we thought we were really good at this competition stuff. So there's a business competition at Ohio State being held, and we said, what the heck, let's enter it. And we pitched this subscription-based autonomous vehicle service. And during the first 2 rounds, we flew through it. They loved the idea. But after the second round, we met with the business analyst, and we were sitting around a table, and we pitched our idea to him. And he looks at us, and he was a little puzzled. And he goes, you know what, guys, this is great. But what are you guys going to do tomorrow to make this idea become a reality. And at first, I'll be honest, we were kind of taken aback. This was the best idea we ever came up with. And we only knew this guy for 5 minutes. Like, why was he telling us our idea was not realistic? But it really made us think, if we wanted to take part of the future of transportation, what do we have to do to get our foot into the door? So we took a few days, and we started to think about the problems that we have in transportation. And we came back together, and I said, you know what, guys, the big problem I have as a student is the last 3 years, I haven't had a car on campus. And it's super hard for me to get off campus. A perfect story that I remembered was during my sophomore year, my mom had a surprise birthday party, and my dad wanted me to come up to Cleveland for it. And I said, you know what, Dad, I want to be there. And I'm going to try to find a ride. So I asked friends of friends, looked on Facebook, looked for busing, and nothing really seemed to line up. So my dad had to leave work early on that Friday, drive 2 hours down to Columbus to pick me up, and then we drove back up to the Cleveland area. We had a great time for my mom's birthday, but on Sunday, my dad had to drop everything that he was doing to drive me back down to Columbus and then drive back to Cleveland. This was 8 hours of his weekend, just wasted. So at the same time, Brian kind of perks up and he goes, you know what, I have an interesting problem too. For the last 2 years on campus, I have a car, and everywhere I go, I have empty seats in the back of my car. Sometimes I've been barred from going places just because I don't have enough gas money because I'm on a tight college budget. So we had this interesting problem going on. You had people, in my area that needed rides, and people in Brian's area that needed to fill up his car to get gas money. So could we maybe connect these two people? And was this even a problem at Ohio State in the first place? So we did a little background research, and what we found was really interesting. So 41,500 students at Ohio State in the Columbus campus are permanent residents of Ohio. And of Ohio's 88 counties, each county is represented by at least 10 students. And the nice thing about Ohio State is it's in Columbus, and everywhere in Ohio is within drivable distance of campus. So you have these 41,500 students that are traveling back and forth to their hometowns during weekends and also during random holidays. But if you break this down even further, half of these students are freshmen and sophomore, and half of these students are juniors and seniors. Now, at Ohio State, if you're a freshman, you have to stay on campus, and you're not allowed to have a car. If you're a sophomore, you have to stay on campus. You can have a car, but you have to fork over $800 for a parking pass. Juniors and seniors typically live off campus, and based on survey data that we collected, 67% of those students off campus had a car that they used to travel long distances. So this was pretty cool. We started thinking, how can we help these students find cheap and convenient rides? How can we help these drivers fill up their seats and save gas money? And at the same time, how can we help these parents save all the time that they're taking to pick up their son or daughter that's a freshman and sophomore? So with this in mind, we created Leap. And Leap is a carpooling app specifically at Ohio State at the moment. And its aim is to connect students to share rides, split the cost of gas, and also create new friendships and create new memories. We launched our app last August at the beginning of last semester. And since we've been responsible for 38 carpools, we've saved about 8,800 miles of driving, 380 gallons of gasoline, and just shy of 7,500 pounds of CO2 from entering into the atmosphere. A stat that thank you. Thank you. A stat that I'm proud of that's not listed here is we've kept $800 in students' pockets. So this is really interesting, and college carpooling in general is a big problem today. But we started also looking into where does carpooling fit in with the future of transportation. So I'll give you guys some stats. In the US today, we spend $2 trillion on car ownership every year. We own 250 million cars in the United States. Of these 250 million cars are used 4% of the day. It's about an hour. If you break it down a little bit further, each car on average has 5 seats. And when these cars are in use, they have about 1.55 seats filled, so about 1.55 passengers using the car. If you look at the utilization rate of each seat in the United States, it's about 1%, just vastly inefficient. Another way to put this, if you have these 250 million cars that are operating 1 hour of the day, you have about 70% of the 1.25 billion seats that go empty every day. So we see this as a big waste of space and a big waste of gas. So where can carpooling come into play? Well, in the next 5 to 10 years, we think that we're going to see some powerful autonomous vehicles. And these autonomous vehicles are going to be equipped with routing systems that, in collaboration with carpooling, make transportation very effective. These autonomous vehicles with carpooling are going to decongest our roads. And it's going to bring this 250 million down drastically. By the way, this 250 million cars in the US, when they're parked 96% of the day, if you put them all together, it makes up the same space as the state of Connecticut, which is crazy. So not only are we going to decongest our roads and bring down the number of cars we need, but we're going to save time. We're going to save gas. And by carpooling with our community members, we're going to be able to make friends with the people that we might be yelling at today when we're stuck in traffic. So looking at the future of transportation is super exciting. But also looking back on our journey and seeing what we learned is super beneficial as well. So we learned that if we want to use our talents and use our time and use our skills to make the community better, transportation is a perfect avenue to do this. Everyone's lives is impacted by transportation, and if we can get into this space a little bit, we'll be able to leave a lasting impact. Second, this kind of goes off of Nora's point, but we've looked at failure differently. So in today's society, a lot of people, when they fail, they think it's because they weren't good enough, and they're never going to be good enough. But that's not really the case. If you start looking at failure as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to get better, you're just going to continually improve. And last but not least, my biggest point is if you're interested in something, whether it be transportation or something else, if you're passionate and you don't know how to make use of that passion, all you have to do is begin by taking baby steps. The same baby steps that my team and I have taken in order to get involved in transportation, and the same baby steps that you may have taken to get into the gym for the first time. Thank you. You guys have any questions?
What are you guys doing to ensure the safety of your riders and your drivers?
Sure. So in order to get in the app, you need an Ohio State email. So that keeps it strict to Ohio State. But what you do is you sign on in terms and conditions before you use our service. And basically you say you have a driver's license, you're 18 years or older, and you claim that you're responsible for all the actions that take place. So we are specifically a platform for people to connect, and we're not providing any transportation service at all. So we basically put all the responsibility on you, and we try to provide you with enough information to make an informed decision before you get in the car with someone else.
So what is the cost for the student then? Obviously it's probably going to depend on the range you're going, but what's the average cost, I guess?
Yeah, so how the app is set up right now, it's almost like a marketplace. So if I'm driving somewhere and I have 3 seats in my car, I can say, hey, I want $5 a seat or $10 a seat. So it just strictly depends on what the driver wants. Right now, all the transactions happen outside of the app. So we would just, if you were driving and I was riding, I would just pay you in cash, whatever you ask for.
So if they're paying you in cash outside of your system, then you can't take a cut. So what's your monetization strategy then?
So that's a question we always get. So right now we're pre-revenue. We have 2 main revenue models that we're looking at. The first is implementing a payment system in the app and then having a transaction fee that the rider would probably pay. And we make money every ride that way. The second is to have contracts with universities and other businesses and kind of lease our platform out to them, and then they could let their students or their employees use it for free. And they would pay us a contract, an amount every month.
So if you went the university route, do you know how many cars you would eliminate in parking spaces? So how much money would the university save in housing cars?
So that's really interesting. So we've been in talks with Ohio State, and if they find that we take away any of their parking spaces, Ohio State wouldn't be able to do business with us because Campus Park owns the right to all the parking spots. So we try to stay out of that space and say that we don't have any involvement with your parking.
go with the students.
Yeah.
Don't sell to the university.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has it been used for events, just rather than just going back to the towns that they live in, but someone's going to the grocery store or someone's going to a popular spot?
Or
Everybody,
Yeah.
Easton, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Most of actually, really quick, our first ride we ever took part of was I drove someone to Easton.
Okay. So there's a lot more applications than just bringing someone to a town or whatever.
Yeah. So most of the rides that we've seen and all the data we've collected, people are going to their hometown. And this occurs every weekend. You have people going home, but the big ones for us are the holidays. One thing that we'd like to implement is an events tab in our app, and to basically allow companies or venues to put their big events coming up, and then people, if they're interested, they can say, hey, let's pair up and go to this event. You know what I mean? So I think right on the app right now, there's someone looking for a ride to the Journey concert down in Dayton at the end of February, at the end of April. So.
Sold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotta get your LSU email after
Yeah. Mugen.4 coming back, boys.
Cool.
Good job.
Thank you.